They get to sit in the chair, and then I get to decide based on a conversation with them whether they want to work or not. Their mindset is wrong from get. Right.
If you hadn't been putting in that work, you would have probably crashed from that.
But that's the number one thing.
At what point with your business were you able to start hiring staff?
So I might be weird on this. I hire the second I can afford it. Like the second I can afford it. The only position I still haven't freaking hired for is like, I really want someone to be sitting in that chair filming this whole thing. I still haven't hired for that. But other than that, it was like the second I can afford it, I like spreadsheets a lot. I love numbers. I'm not good at math, but I like math. And so I just will track it, and I remember watching it. This is kind of a foggy memory, but I remember like looking at the spreadsheet and kind of being like, Michelle's going to freak out because I'm about to pay myself less, but I can pay myself less. I can afford another truck. Like I already had another vehicle, but I could afford to run that second truck. And that's kind of like, I know that the second you can run that second truck is the second all that stuff comes off of my chest, or at least half of it, I guess you could say, comes off my chest to where it will scale. And that's just intuitive. I didn't go to business school. I don't have any reasons why I know that's going to happen. But yeah, but basically that was it. Where I was like, I know if I can run 2 trucks, like I can spend this much more time in the office, and I can spend this much more time with the kids on a Saturday. And I just know that this expense that will grow past it. Right. And I was nail on the head. Exactly right. Because then not too long after that, I actually hired Isaiah. And then I'm like, we're going into Christmas light season. Screw it. Let me just keep hiring guys. And so then I hired Logan, and so it's like, I just kept hiring because we just kept growing. And then basically what ended up happening was the biggest business around here closed. So all of a sudden my phone goes off, and Gary Giffen, anybody that runs rental businesses knows who he is. He's the owner of Jolly Dolly. And it's like literally in my backyard. Like he's like 8 minutes, probably 10 minutes away. And so he messages me and it's like, I'm selling out. Right. So I made him an offer to buy the business. It was a good offer, but he decided to sell everything independently. And then we just kind of built up a little bit of a friendship or a relationship. And so he just linked me from his homepage. We're close. Go rent from Nick.
Wow.
Right. And so it's kind of like another one of those serendipity moments. Yeah. But because I had and this was actually spring the next year. Right. So we went through Christmas light season of 2021. And now we're into September of 2021. Right. And so I hired those 5 guys. And then it was like all of a sudden I'm not even close to enough hired because they can't fill the demand. Right. And so then Michelle's yelling at me, hire more guys.
That's awesome, though.
It's kind of one of those things where it's just like total serendipity. Like I just had the foresight to overhire, and then the opportunity met up with it, and it was like perfection.
Yeah, good thing. And you had like the vision too to actually be able to execute it once you were given all those leads. Right. If you hadn't been putting in that work the couple of months leading up to that, you would have probably crashed from that kind of influx of customers.
Yeah. And it's just intuition. It's like, I don't know if there's a teachable moment in there, but it was just kind of like, I know I'm going to crush everyone, and I know I'm going to be huge. So let's build the army to make that happen. And when maybe it's manifestation, maybe it's law of attraction, maybe it's just like blind dumb luck. Maybe I'm just like got lucky 2 times in a row, you know what I mean, in this crazy bounce house industry. But it's just like, when you have that mentality, there's literally nothing that can stand in my way, because I know I'm going to crush everybody. I know it.
And so, obviously to scale, one of the big things is, like you're saying, you had to hire people on, you had to expand the team. That way you could have someone man the other truck. You could do more drop-offs. You could handle more inflatables. What are you looking for when you hire those guys?
Very, very little, to be honest with you. Isaiah is realistically the only person I've ever hired that had like inflatable experience. So it's like we're in the interview and I'm like, basically trying to send a message to them like, you think you know inflatables, but you don't, because the way I run this is totally different
than the way he was.
Than anybody runs. Most, not like literally anybody, but almost everybody runs a company, right? And basically what I'm looking for is I want some level of positivity. I don't mind cynicism. I don't mind cynical people as long as the cynicism is joking, right? Like it has that comedic value to it. I don't like cynics when there's a negative outlook on everything and it's not for comedic purposes, right? Then the other thing I'm looking for is just basically just kind of that positive attitude. Like I want them to sit across. Well, now I do interviews in here, right? They sit in that chair, but like I want them to sit in that chair right there, listen to me, tell them I'm going to take over the world and that I need their help. And I want them to react positively where they're like, yes, you are, right? And
I know you work with like a lot of other companies just kind of giving advice to people, and obviously your Facebook groups and your podcast, you hear a lot of people and their struggles. What do you think other people are doing wrong to where it's hard for them to get employees or keep employees? Or what do you think, what mistakes do you think they're making?
The number one, and I cannot figure out how to teach this or communicate this properly to date still. Like I don't know that I've actually really helped anybody, even though I've shouted this from mountaintops. Their mindset is wrong from get. I don't believe in like the book, The Secret, like you sit on the couch and like write on the paper that you're going to be a millionaire and like $1 million is inherited to you. Like I don't believe in that, but I absolutely do believe in the law of attraction from a standpoint of when you put it out there, like, but actually believe it and live it, that it comes back to you. And so I remember, this is kind of going to go back in time a little bit, but when I worked at Journeys, right as the millennials were kind of coming up and like kind of starting to infiltrate the workforce when they were still very young, there was every time you turn on the TV, it was just bashing millennials. Everything was bashing millennials. And I remember being like, I am so confused. Like I remember just being utterly confused. I'm like, why? I have fantastic 16 and 17-year-old employees. They're amazing. I love them all. Like, I don't understand this. Right. And as the millennial thing kind of almost like went viral over the next couple of years, like I just sat around and scratched my head. But I would talk to other employers, like whether I'm talking to another district manager at Journeys or I'm talking to the guy down the hall that works at the whatever shoe store, it doesn't matter. They're bitching and complaining about kids these days don't want to work, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm so confused. Like it's always been the opposite for me, because when I meet somebody, they get the benefit of the doubt, meaning they get to sit in the chair and then I get to decide based on a conversation with them whether they want to work or not. And so then you have all these people sitting around bitching and complaining that they can't find people because nobody wants to work these days. And so guess what happens when they meet a kid that wants to work? They're like, oh, hi. Yeah. Nobody can ever make it with me. Right. They're instantaneously not magnetic, instantaneously not inspirational, instantaneously not a good leader. Like, whereas, right. And I don't think of myself as like an overly positive person. Like I don't sit around and like think positive thoughts, like, right. But I have this positivity that just kind of radiates from me for whatever reason, and it's infectious and people want to be around me. Like it's really not that hard. And so whether I have, I have two that work for me that are 21, and then I've got 19-year-olds, I've got 18-year-olds, I've got one 16-year-old, right? They all bust their ass. They all want to show up and do a good job. They all have their own personalities, but just from the get-go, right? You can't find people because there's nobody out there that wants to work, which is egregious. There's almost 8 billion people in the world, and you think
there's somebody out there.
The bounce house delivery truck? It's like the most ostentatious way to think of ever, right? But so then you create those things in your life and they manifest themselves. Whereas like I'm the opposite. Like if I go to the bar there's a dude that's the bar back that's hustling, and I get an opportunity to make eye contact with him and he smiles at me, and I can be like, dude, hey, I own this party rental business, always looking for hustlers, and you're getting after it. We work early in the morning and it's late at night right now, right? And something can come of it, something couldn't, right? But like, I have the positivity or the positive mindset where it's like, if I can have a conversation with him, I might be able to impact his life. I might not. He may be like, bro, this guy in the red shirt needs to get out of here. But like, it is what it is, you know. But that's the number one thing.
Yeah, having a good attitude is a huge difference, and I think it does show from you. Like, yeah, maybe you don't have to be like rainbow and sunshine all the time, but definitely be a go-getter and be someone who's happy and leads with that happiness. And I think, you know, it seems like you start the day on the right foot. You try to really do a lot for your team.
So I come up here on Saturday morning, get things started. I'm kind of running behind them and tucking in the pallets. So you run around and you make sure that, hey, you got your tent. Hey, did you make sure? Or last week they forgot one of the games went out with it. You know, so it's like, oh, we forgot the Connect 4. All right, get that going. And just kind of be here for the camaraderie of everything, right?
Yeah, I think it's a big morale booster for them. I mean, even if it's like little things that they could do themselves, just to see that you're like in there with them in the day-to-day struggle. You know, it is hard work, right? That's something that we need to remind people. It's hard, it's heavy, it might be hot, but if you have, it's also easy. I've heard you say that a lot. It also can be pretty easy once you get it down. So if you have that positive attitude, and I think your presence probably helps drive a lot of that as well.